This is CBSSports.com's College Basketball 360. I'm Kevin Cork. Great to have you with us, everybody. Time for a look ahead to the season in the Big Ten. And for that, we welcome our college basketball insiders, Gary Parrish and Jeff Goodman once again. Guys, I want to get your preseason favorite to win it all. First to you, Gary, then over to you, Jeff. Who, Gary, will win the Big Ten this season?
I think the smart pick, and really the only pick you can make, is Indiana, given that what they accomplished last year, making the Sweet 16, a borderline top 25-ish team most of the season, and what they returned, most notably Cody Zeller, who is our preseason National Player of the Year as well. So the pick should be Indiana, but will I be surprised if Michigan State, or even Wisconsin is pushing them? Not at all. And that says less about Indiana than it does about the quality at the top of the Big Ten.
Hey, Indiana has the best player in the country. We know that. Cody Zeller, sophomore, big guy. They've got a lot around him as well that returns. Christian Watford, Victor Oladipo, Will Sheehy. But they do have a freshman point guard in Yogi Ferrell, and that's why I think it's not a lock to put Indiana as far as winning the Big Ten. You've got Tom Izzo in Michigan State. You've got Michigan with Beilein and a very, very talented freshman class highlighted by Glenn Robinson's kid and Mitch McGeary. I think this thing could be more open than people realize.
Yeah, there will be people who will say, listen, when you have a Zeller on your squad, you know that you should be ranked very high. For some people, they are without a doubt the #1 team in the country. And yet, I think you mentioned something very important, Gary. There's a lot of talent top to bottom in the Big Ten. Break down some of the major challengers for the Hoosiers this season.
Well, I think Wisconsin can be one. That's a team that was good last year and returns the bulk of it. They lose a dynamic point guard. But still, it's a Bo Ryan coach team with experience. They'll be good. Michigan, for all the reasons that Jeff mentioned, should be relevant. But the team I think is the most likely challenger to Indiana at the top of the Big Ten is Michigan State. I talked to the staff from there over the weekend. They told me Brandon Dawson, who's coming off that ACL surgery, looks really good this preseason. And one assistant actually described him as more athletic than he was pre-injury. If that's true, you put him with Keith Appling, Gary Harris, and then they've got two bigs up front, and I mean really big guys up front. They could be a matchup problem for some people. And then they got one of the very best, if not the best, on the sideline in Tom Izzo. To me, that's the most significant challenger.
You're very naive. How often does a guy come back more athletic from a torn ACL?
I'm just repeating what I was told. I'm not telling you that I believe it. I'm telling you I'm repeating what I'm told.
No, I'm with you. Listen, Wisconsin, the key there is going to be George Marshall, the freshman, a redshirt freshman point guard who will have to replace Jordan Taylor. A school you didn't really touch on much was Ohio State. Then you have two of maybe the top 10 players in the country in Deshaun Thomas and Aaron Craft. The question is, do they have any inside presence to replace Jared Sullinger? Amir Williams will get the first shot. How is Lenzel Smith going to be as far as stepping up his offensive production? You know, there's a bunch of teams right now. Minnesota, Trevor Mbakwe, how does he come back from the torn ACL? There's a bunch of teams in the Big Ten that can compete. But I agree with Gary. I think Michigan State is probably the stiffest competition because of Tom Izzo.
We are looking ahead to the season in the Big Ten. I'm Kevin Cork. This is your Big Ten preview here on College Basketball 360. We are joined by our insiders, Gary Parrish and Jeff Goodman. And guys, it was interesting. I heard you talking about how deep the league is. And obviously they have been ridiculed, Gary, on the football field as being not very deep at all. But is it a legitimate point to say that the Big Ten may be the best basketball conference in America?
I think you can easily and intelligently make that case. Point being that as I'm mentioning challengers to Indiana, I didn't mention Ohio State, which is a preseason top 5 team in the coaches poll. So there's some really talented rosters and solid programs with experience in the top half of that league. Indiana should be the pick. Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Ohio State, any of those teams could finish top 5 in any real order. And any of them, I think, we could look up and see in the Elite Eight, maybe even the Final Four.
Yeah, no, you're right. You've got a bunch of teams that we could say are legitimate Final Four contenders. You really can't say that about too many other leagues. And even the bottom of the league, I think, is better than a lot of other, bottoms of the league. Penn State, they're probably 11th in the league. And they've got one of the best players in the country in Tim Frazier. Iowa, finished somewhere in the bottom half of the league, is pretty talented. Purdue, they could be, a type of team that maybe sneaks into the NCAA tournament at the end of the day. So there's depth, there's talent. at the top and even towards the bottom.
I'm glad you both mentioned the Buckeyes. I, for one, believe that will certainly be a team to be reckoned with. Of course, Izzo and company coming off a 29-victory season. It'll be a very tough sledding for all the teams in the Big Ten this season. Gary Parrish and Jeff Goodman joining us once again here on College Basketball 360 with our preview of the Big Ten. And a reminder, just go to our website, CBSSports.com. We have our own preseason prediction of how the Big Ten will wrap up this season. Our preseason pick, well, no real surprise. A lot of people feel like it's got to be the Hoosiers, followed, of course, by the Michigan Wolverines, Michigan State, Ohio State. How about the Badgers, Gophers, Boilermakers, Hawkeyes, Fighting Illini, Wildcats, Nittany Lions, Cornhuskers, as we break down the preseason Big Ten. And a reminder, also at our website, you can see our preseason player of the year. You heard the guys talking about Cody Zeller. I don't think there's any question about that. How about our preseason freshman of the year? Keep an eye on Gary Harris out of Michigan State. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Our all-league team, Deshaun, Trevor, Cody, Aaron, and Trey, they're all there at our website, CBSSports.com. This has been a Big Ten preview from our partners, Gary Parrish and Jeff Goodman. I'm Kevin Cork. We'll see you again next time right here on College Basketball 360.